All right. So life can be very complex, but if you try to understand the structure of it, it's not that complex. Once you realize how to decipher the life and the intricate ways how it operates, especially our mind, because that's really the focus. Because the bodies are evolved over the period of years by the nature itself. We really don't have a whole lot in it to really pass on the genes and the evolutions of millions of years and then go on for another millions of years and all that. But the one that makes a difference is the mind. So the mind operates in a very complex way, and most of the times we have difficulties in understanding the mind because we are in the middle of it. Right in the middle of the mind, try to decipher the mind is like sitting in the hurricane and find out what's going to happen to the hurricane because you don't have that vision available to be outside the twister. Have you seen the movie Twister? It's an amazing movie, right? Yeah. Where they're the storm chasers and things like that. So unless you really understand, to understand the mind, you have to step out of the mind. So meditation is the technique to step out of the mind. Then the mind starts revealing its secrets. So life is more like an ocean, like we have a lot of waves on the surface, but that's not all we are. We are deep ocean also. But waves keep on going up and down and up and down and continuously chasing each other, following each other. Lot of action. Waves are where the action is. There is momentum, there is friction, there is restlessness, there is greed, there is hatred, there is likes, there are dislikes. All these things are happening at the waves level. But waves are born just like us. Waves go through, they get bigger just like us. They start fading away just like us, and they die out just like us. So our life is really not much different than the waves. The only difference is the waves are made out of the ocean. Waves are not separate than the ocean. So most of the people are born as waves, they live as waves, they get old as waves and die as waves. And that's their story of their life. If that's all we are happy with, there is no way anyone can get you into spirituality. So if we can understand the structure of life, that life is more than what you look like, what I look like. Well, I'm taller, I'm shorter, I have ego, don't have ego, I'm doing this. Sansar is what we're talking about. Sansar is not just the physical sansar outside. Outside world is a creation of God. God's creations are all beautiful. We make it complicated. Every single child is born beautiful. We make him ugly by our definitions of what is ugliness and what is beauty and all that, right? So sansar is in our head, and the complexities are in our head. And that makes our life complex and get us into these frictions, hatreds, and competitions. From the time a child is born, he's taught how to compete, how to win, how to look better, how to look superior. And it's not even the fault of the parents because that's what they've been taught. And it's not even taught, it's something that you just see around, and that's what everybody does around, and you end up doing it. So it basically becomes your way of life because you just don't know any other way of life. But it requires the silence to decipher all these actions, where you go beyond the mind and you become thoughtless. And in that inner silence I'm talking about. So silence is not something that you see outside. Oh, I'm fed up with this noise. Let me just go to some resort and relax. That's not what we talk about. That's only absence of noise. The inner silence is an absolute silence where there is no activity there. And it's perpetual, permanent, peaceful, blissful silence. But we will never know, and that's the ocean. Waves is where action is, suffering is, achievements is, goals are, and ocean is where there is depth, there is wisdom, there is peace, and there is ultimate, total inner silence. So how long does it take for the wave to understand that it is the ocean? Not much. It's only a surface deep. if you really look at it. The consciousness is what made us all. We are consciousness. We are the waves of consciousness. Consciousness is within you, within me, within everywhere. You turn around, the consciousness is flooding our inside. We just have to take a peek inside. But Sansar doesn't let you do that, because Sansar has its own rules and regulations. Sansar has its laws. It provides you the environment where you can just grow up, flourish, whatever your desires are, whatever your needs are. Sansar will provide it. Whatever you want to do in life, there are more and more attractions. There are casinos and there are bars and there are movie theaters and there are entertainment centers, and whatever you want is right there. It's all provided for because somebody is making money out of it. So it's an absolute must. And we get conned into it, and we think that we committed enough sins. So then there are enough temples there are purohits there, and then pujaris are there. So okay, come here. But everywhere you go, there is only one language they talk: money. Casinos are about money, and then so are the temples about the money. And then they flood you with all these things, but the common currency remains the same. And the currency remains the money, and then there are other currencies too, whether we're looking for attention from others. So forget about the money, like just friends get together. But still, someone says, oh, I want to look better than everybody else, so I can create an awe in the party. Or I'm smarter than you. I want to argue out saying that I'm smarter than you. And so these are like egos have been created. There is a continuous friction going on. Even not, say, among the enemies, with the enemies, even with your friends, and even with your own people that you call, there is at a very subtle level, because the sansar that we're talking about is the subtle sansar. At the subtle level, there is a continuous friction. Competition is a way of life. Duality is what creates the sansar. Sansar cannot exist without the duality. And the duality are serial levels of somebody's all the way on the top, somebody's in the middle, somebody's in the lower end. There is a continuous comparisons going on. Even in karmas, say, oh, your karmas are bad and my karmas are good and this and that. How much punya did you earn? How many days of fasting did you do? You did 7, oh, I did 16, or I did 24. Oh, my Maharaj Sahib did. Even Maharaj Sahibs are evaluated on the basis of the same currency. The money gets replaced. Your achievements, your goals, rather your actions become the currency. Oh, if your Maharaj Sahib did 90 days, he must be more pious than somebody else. Oh, my Maharaj Sahib did only 45 days. What is all these things? This is all sansar. And we, at a very subtle level, we don't even realize this is happening. So there was a story of a guy who was looking for some donations, right, from the crowd. They were building a temple. So he approaches one guy and says, we feel like giving some donation. We're building a temple. And people have donated 5,000, 10,000 rupees, if you can throw some, it will be for a good cause and this and that. He says, yeah. The guy says, I'm not really capable of 5 or 10,000. He says, what are these temples for? Ultimately, the whole world is God's temple, and why do we really need to build temples? So the guy says, no, it is necessary because people can get together, they can meditate, and they can do the puja, and that gets the whole community together, and this and that. So the guy says, then why don't you get other people who are already paying 5,000? He says, no, but it will give you punya if you, donate something. So the guy says, finally he says, all right, how about 5 rupees? So the guy was still not ready. So finally he takes out 1 rupee. He says, okay, just to get him off, So he says, God is going to get insulted, if you only pay 1 rupee. God is going to get insulted. Now the God has to walk at the currency level. All of a sudden, dollars evaluate even the gods. The one that transforms you is God. If we do not get transformed, we live the whole life without transformation. Outside winds affect the waves. Waves are innocent, but the outside winds make the throw go up and down, climb, grow here, go there, fight, collide, and finally die out. So it's the outside sansar created at mental level affects us. All their creations ultimately affects our thinking pattern. So that's why I always say, the Shankaracharya always say the sanskaras. Sanskaras are coming from outside. And whenever they come from outside, and we are getting influenced by it, we forget our true self, which we already did not know to begin with. So this life was our opportunity to find our true self. On top of that, not giving that opportunity, starting from day one, we are being told, you're going to be something. You have to be something. You have to have this goal. You have to do this. And we get sucked into this sansar routine. And yet, if you really think about it, it's all your fictitious arrangements. So somebody says that, okay, I'm fed up with all these things and I'm going to approach the religions and then they're going to get me into salvations. Then there are more currencies are being thrown onto you. How many karmas do you have? How many bad karmas do you have? How many good karmas you have? You have to wash out all these things. You have to do this. You have to do this. As if they themselves are free of all the karmas. For sure, yeah. That hasn't happened since Buddha and Mahavir were roaming on this earth, right? And yet these are the people who teach you to get you better life. Again, your journey starts. Because the currency is what drives everybody. And then currency is what makes up the goal. So now you have the currencies of karmas so that you can have a better life. You go into Swarga and then this and then that and all that. From point A, the sansar job is to deviate you from where you are. You are just not good enough as you are. Imagine the psychology of the child. That the guy is literally just born. He's so innocent. He wants to play around, have fun in life. And by the time he's 2 years or 3 years old, now he's bombarded. Now he's all these objectives. And what does he know? For him, the parents are everything. So he is now thrown into all these objectives. Now he has to really forget about the joy, forget about playfulness. Now he has to get ready for this battle of the egos. Egos is all there are. Somebody has a bigger ego, somebody has smaller egos. And if you cannot develop ego by collecting more money, then you have to succumb to somebody else's egos. If the Apple says these are the set of rules you're going to go by, we go by that, right? And then they create all the softwares and then the apps and all that. Now we're looking for, so far we were looking for attention of each other in the parties. Now we're looking for attention. How many clicks did I get? How many people recognize my postings, which most of the times never yours. they are being forwarded. But these are subtle egos that we live. We look for attention from others. We feed, we live by those attentions, and then we die with the empty-handed. One of our friends, it's a Punjabi family, and he was talking about, so there was a eulogy given by the daughter, and she's not really well versed and may not know the right words to speak at the right time, but he basically said that, we're gonna remember Papa, how much he loved WhatsApp, It's the whole day he was on WhatsApp and all that. I said, is that the only thing you can say about your dad? You couldn't say how much he loved or whatever he did to his grandchildren. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe WhatsApp took up all the opportunities for them to, all his time to really. So all I'm saying is that a lot of things that come from outside, if we can decipher all these things and where they are staying, and we can find out some way of transcending all this nonsense, then we are heading towards knowing that we are the ocean and we are really not the waves. So our suffering is real, and the problem is if you go to the sansar, it only adds fuel to the fire. Because now you're talking about, because we don't have Buddhas and Mahavirs walking around to guide us, so now we get the help of WhatsApp, and all the nice writings come in the morning, and that we should do this and you should do this, and not that everybody's doing it, that's besides the point, but you can try to learn from it. From the people who have posted that themselves are never following what they're writing anyway, or they're passing rather. So we really don't have any place where we can turn to. It looks like the life basically ends up as zero. We really come with nothing, and we are really living with nothing, and all the time, all this precious time that we spend, we really end up, it's like a washout, basically. And it becomes sad, because human life is the only life, theoretically, that has able to reach enlightenment. We never get the glimpse of the infinite. So to get to the infinite level, if we can understand where these intricate balances are working, we not only because of the creatures, we are the creatures of the habit. Our day-to-day life revolves around all these things. We wake up in the morning, think of competition. We live through the whole day thinking of competition. In the evening, we're thinking of, even when we go to bed, our dreams are about competition. I want this, I want that, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. All these things, how can I do to refit, to win over in this situation? This is just, is mind-boggling. And we don't even have a single moment where the mind does not exist, and yet we do exist. That existence that we never get. So the waves never find out that they are the ocean. So it's unfortunate that we go through all this suffering. For example, and that's where because everybody is walking around with the egos. Somebody have ego about money, somebody has ego about their knowledge, somebody has ego about their positions in the society, the fame, somebody has ego about the religious knowledge, how many scriptures they have read, somebody, whatever. Everybody becomes something. If I have more friends, I feel that that builds up my ego. If you have only 10 friends versus, oh, in my party we had like 100 people. I mean, how does it matter how much fun did you have? Is that really counted ever? Probably not. So the question is, like, the egos build up under very, very subtle things, and very small things can really build up the ego. And the egos, naturally, everybody walks around at a very different level. So the egos collide. Egos are your weapons. Physical weapons we don't use anymore since we are more civilized than that. But at the mind level, these are all our egos. Egos are being used to crush the enemies. If I know more about the karmas, then I can teach you something. If I know more about how to make money, I can teach you something. But either way, I'm going to get you into the same journey as anybody else, as I have been, because I have made an ego out of it, right? So egos are also weapons to put somebody down. Now, the question comes in, is the person who has ego, they don't even realize that, right? The egos play in a very subtle way, and we don't even know what we are accumulating. The more accumulation we have, it builds up the ego. So weapons galore exist everywhere. So no surprise, if everybody is walking around with weapons, why won't there be a fight? Everybody wants to win, right? So the whole society is filled with people walking around with weapons. And Mahavir was the first one who recognized that your thoughts are your weapons. That's why samadhi is a state where you become thoughtless. You drop your weapons. You are nothing. Become nothing. You don't know anything. And that's where the spiritual journey starts. With your knowledge and with your thinking that you have this and you have this, that's why we take off the shoes outside the temples. But those are replicas. But we have considered temples, and we have made ego out of that. I go to this temple, and our temples are so big. Even the religions are considered better or worse based on how many followers they have. Christianity brags about it, and Buddhism brags about it, Hinduism brags about it. But they may not have anything to do with Hinduism itself. They are out there fighting for Hinduism, that yes, these are the enemies of Hinduism. We have to protect our gods. I thought the gods were supposed to protect us. Now we have to defend our gods. So look where, and it's not just the society, it's us too. We pick up the egos and we make egos out of it, as if it's not enough that you have this much money or this much bigger house or this car or this many friends. Then we join all these organizations and make an ego out of it. Nobody told them to, but oh, it's my religion. Why? You created it? You started the philosophy? No, you're passing on the same knowledge that you received for somebody else. How is it yours? But it becomes yours, so that I can fight. So people will make fight out of everything. Even for something good that was supposed to be religion, but it becomes an ego. And then it becomes a fight. So transcending the mind gets rid of all this crap that fills our mind with poisons. Just like a child is born, has no poison in his head, he's innocent. And to reach to the thought at the level of the childhood with the innocence, we have to understand the complexities, how the mind works. When frictions happen, what are the byproducts? anger, because not everybody can win. Hatred for somebody who won versus somebody who lost. Then I have complex, because it gives me a boost to fight about what I have. If I don't even realize what I have, how am I going to fight? So to realization that I have all these things give me superiority complex. So compared to me, everybody else is inferior. So all these things are results of the egos. And there is greed, there is anger. If I get angry and I shut you off, they say anger, well, religions will say don't be angry because you're giving the suffering to others by your anger. Wrong. The reason is no one can make anybody suffer if they choose not to. Try doing the same anger to Buddha. Buddha says, doesn't matter. He's in a peaceful, calm situation. There was a story. The guy came and spitted on his face. So Buddha just wiped it off. And the guy was so shocked. He says, what kind of response? You're not saying anything? So the next day he comes and he apologizes and he says, I'm sorry, Buddha, I did this to you. So Buddha says, the whole 24 hours went. The Buddha yesterday is not the same Buddha today, because my body changed, my mind changed. Same Buddha you spitted at is not the same Buddha you're talking to. That's how egoless he was. Because we attach ourselves to the body, thinking that we are the body. Or we attach ourselves to the mind. Somebody does not like our ideologies, we fight against it, so you don't know, and this and that and all that. But he realizes these are all mobile things. You cannot claim ownership on it, but we do all the time. And yet, every day, we are 24 hours old. But our attachment to the something that is mobile and make it concrete is the cause of our ego. We build up something which is not there. Ego is fictitious. And still, with that ego, we fight. Imagine. And everybody is in the same boat. So if I get angry on someone, for example, if the guy has no ego, which is hard to find nowadays, he will not get upset. If he does not have ego, try getting angry on a 2-year-old kid. What does he care? He does not have an ego built up yet. Or somebody like Buddha who has grown up, but he has transcended his ego. So whether your anger will make somebody hurt or not, it's up to the person. But the reality is that everybody is walking around with the ego. So the thing is that when we talk to each other, it makes sense if somebody gets upset. But the ego is the problem. At the spiritual level, when you have ego, you suffer. It's unwritten rule. So is the cause of suffering is your ego, not whatever the other guy said or did. But the problem happens is at the anger level, you suffer. Because your intention was to hurt someone by getting angry. So your belief in the sansar gets more firm. That by doing my actions, I can hurt somebody. Again, you use your weapons and you stay at the sansaric level. So one more day is lost in your life to walk away from sansar and realize the ocean within us. So the earlier you drop your ego is better, because ego gives the byproducts of these sufferings. Somebody donates money. They says, oh, I'm making X amount of money and I'm gonna, oh, my mom has told me that 10% you give it away and this and that. Realize the subtle way of looking at the life. So he thinks that giving money is a good thing to do. Again, money is what is in the center. So you think that money equates to happiness, right? So you think that giving money to someone will give them happiness. Wrong. What he does with his money, you don't know, right? And in a very other ways, like you created your money with your hard-earned work and all that, he loses that opportunity because money is a reward for your hard work, right? You did something. Okay, you might also have dreamed about money. That's one point. But supposing you were in a very, very, very natural state and you just stayed natural and honest, and you lived your life as total honesty, and money just kept piling at you. Now from that money, you were happy to begin with, because at the at your innermost level, there is nothing but happiness. So in that happy state, you just were performing your daily life. Like Kabir. Kabir was making chadariya, so he was a darji, right? So he was a cloth maker. He says, every chadariya I make, there is Ram in it. So for me to give it out, say, take care of it properly, please. That's all. Whatever money you give me is your choice. But every thread is made with my Ram. That's how much he was into all this thing. So you realize that you are happy to begin with, and then your products are beautiful because they're unconditional. Because you, every product that comes from you, your own soul is into it, and that itself is the joy. So when you give money that came from it, now your reverse thinking goes that, okay, money will make somebody happy. How is that? Right? So these are very subtle ways we don't think about all these things. So when we give money, because me and my wife always have that discussion, because she thinks that, oh, these people are poor and we have to give them money and all that. I said, I have nothing against it, but if you think that money will bring them happiness, think again. Because one time Jesus was going from village to village to village, right? So all of a sudden he recognized one guy that he had no vision. And he gave him the vision with his miraculous powers. And he saw him running after professional women. He says, what are you doing? I got you the eyes that you did not have. And look what you're doing with it. Again, getting locked in the sansar. So there is a difference. There is a big, big, big qualitative difference between you and somebody else if you are on a spiritual path. Whether you are running after $1 or $1 million, it doesn't matter. That's only a quantitative difference. But when you don't run at all, when you have realized the futility of sansar, any kind of desires are no good. It's going to get you sucked into the sansar, and it's unending, and that everybody is doing anyway. But only when you transcend the idea that desire itself is bad, that's when the qualitative difference comes in. You know the story about that diamond that was sitting there on the road. One sadhu was doing meditation. He sees the diamond is there. He had nothing to do with it. He just sits there. All of a sudden, one Godeswar, the horse rider, comes in. Sainik, he was an army guy with weapons and everything. All of a sudden, he sees this. He bends down to pick it up. Another soldier comes from the other side. He says, wait. This is mine. He says, how so? It was just sitting on the road. But he says, I saw it first. But he says, no, but the other guy says, no, I reached there first. It is mine. So then they fight and fight and fight till both die. The diamond is still sitting there. There are two dead bodies. The horse is without the riders, and the sadhu is still sitting there. For him, there was no ripple. So the ripple would happen to us if we think that money is important, fame is important, attention is important. So all these things are the byproducts that we live by all day long. This is all we think of. What do you do now? Even when you dress, even when you put the shoes on, even when you buy the new shirt, we are continuously looking for attentions, as if we exist for the world. People look at each other and live their life as if there are Buddhas and Mahavirs walking around every day. Everybody decides what we should wear, what we should eat. Oh, you eating this? How come? What's wrong with you? Come on, have fun. Take more insulin. What's wrong with you? So there are millions of people volunteering to get you back into the sansar. When you already might have realized the truth, you don't want to, but it doesn't last. Because the majority wins. So you get influenced and the boat starts sinking. You know when the boat sinks on the ocean? Only when the water gets in. Until then, the boat can. So you reach to the realized state. The whole purpose of realized state is to realize that it's the desires never fulfill. Never. If one desire gets fulfilled, another one will start. And then another, and then another. And this is the whole sansar. With our common sansar, the total mind of the community keeps on going. People come and join. The new kids are born, they join. The old one go, but the sangha goes on forever. There is no destination there. So for the first time, if we realize all these things, our inner journey can start. And once we realize the intricate ways the sansar catches us, then the fragrance of the inner soul starts coming up. So meditation is really the only technique that I know. Otherwise, there are basically traps everywhere. And the traps are very subtle, whether it is as low as professional women or casinos, or as pious as the temples or churches. They are all traps. So realize this, go within, understand the intricate workings of the mind, walk away from it. There is only one savior in your life, is the awareness. Be aware. Everything that you're doing, be 100% aware every single moment. Not easy, but that's how we develop, through the meditation. And then meditation has to spread throughout your day. Otherwise, it's 20, 30 minutes of exercise is not meditation. You live meditatively. Every time, of course, you're going to make mistakes. But if you're aware, the same mistake, you're not going to make it again. The awareness is your gift from the consciousness. And that chit function from the Sat, Chit and Anand is what's going to give you company. He's our friend. He's going to let us decide. He's going to give us the right advice. Whatever action takes you back into the sansar is pap. Whatever action takes you away from sansar is your punya. Build up more and more punyas, little by little, every day. You keep eye on it, meditate regularly, and then the life starts becoming more and more divine, because you're going more to the natural innocence that the consciousness meant to be. You look at outside, everything is, all the birds are singing in a very joyous state. Christ took his followers outside on a walkway tour around, and they say, how come these lilies are so beautiful? They're shining and they're dancing. They look so fresh. Why? And how come man is so boarded with luggage and more weight of the past and the future and teachings and sufferings because of the knowledge and all this intellect, and mountains are built up into our mind. And that's why we cannot have the innocence of just simple daisies. Simple daisies are even more fresh looking than us. We are carrying the burden. How do I look? Did I dye my hair properly or not? Is my shirt torn or not? Is somebody's going to mention that I don't wear proper clothes or not? What should I? All these things for what? We live for the sansar. We have sansaric life, we have sansaric birth, we have sansaric existence, and we have sansaric death. It's just totally unfortunate. It does not have to be. For the first time, the only moments that you spent where the sansar does not exist, means mind does not exist, those are the only moments you're going to enjoy, where you become a child. Right, Rajesh bhai? We have gone through so many moments like that. We were in Seattle, the Mount Rainier National Park. Amazing.
On one hand, you are saying that this is a joke.
I'll take questions and comments later, please. Yeah, let me just continue. So, on the Mount Rainier National Park, so we were gone, right? Most of the group was still getting ready, and I always like to go early and all. So some of us decided to go. They had a big group of the trees which had survived. Actually, there was an island surrounded by water. So there was a big fire at one time in Mount Rainier National Park, destroyed pretty much all vegetation, except on this island. So these were some of the most pristine trees that existed, and you should see them, like huge, probably half the size of this room, or maybe whole, like huge tree trunks and all that used to exist. The new growth is not even there yet. So the whole morning was, and the sun was rising, and everything was just so perfect. And we just got into frenzy of wetting, or the water was so cold. And yet, we started throwing water at each other. The whole thing lasted like 20, 30 minutes. We have videos and all that. we became like a child. You drop all your notions and hang-ups, and these are the moments you live with and die with, because those were the moments with your consciousness. And those are the only true moments that you lived. Rest is all, you're like a donkey carrying the load on your shoulder. So don't do that. Enjoy the life, blissful life, connect with consciousness. Thank you.